All right, guys, welcome back to our WNBA game analysis. In the last video, I showed you guys the visualization. So before I even did the visualization, I really want to get some practice doing some SQL. So I'll just show you guys. I'm not going to go into deep detail in this one. If you guys want to join my mentorship program, I'll actually like step through how to actually come up with each one of these SQL statements. But I'm just going to show you guys um and SQL, some of the equivalent to the visualization that you guys saw. So firstly, let me just show you guys what the actual tables look like. So for the team table, we actually do have all of the WNBA teams loaded, and they're yeah. And the only player that's loaded right now is Asia Wilson. Um, because I pulled her game stack analysis. So only Asia is loaded right now. And then for the um player game stats table, this is Asia's 2025 regular season stats that's in here. So this is just what the raw numbers look like. So I'll show you guys a few. This was the one where we were just counting the total number of games that the Aces played in 2025 regular season. So it's just counting all of the records on this table. So I didn't have like a actual teams column. So I just filter by Asia, even though she's the only one loaded anyways, because she plays for the Las Vegas Aces, and query by the year because we're only looking at 2025. To get the wins, all you do is just add in a conditional there to have the is win column be true, and they won 28 games. So we saw the same thing in the visualization as before. And then the loss, of course, is 10. That made sense. I looked at the percentage of regular wins, regular season win percentage. So we saw the same thing in the chart. So our numbers matched up. So they won around, this is like the same number we saw in the pie chart. So that really makes me feel good as far as like knowing that the query works. Oh, let me show you guys this. So basically what we did was count. Oh, let me show you guys this. So we had a sub query here. And what I did was just basically add like this case statement. So when the is win is true, it's a one, else it's a zero. And then I just came here and summed up this where is it? Oh yeah, and then I just summed this, right? So if it's a win, then it got a one value. Actually, let me just run this like inner query for y'all so y'all can see what this looks like. So you see how like it's either like a one or a zero, whether they won or not. So all we did was create this like sub query, and then from there, I just like summed up this win loss counter because if they won, it was gonna be a one. And then I just counted because when you do a count, it's gonna count how many records there are, period. But when I sum this, that means it's only gonna basically like count or sum the ones where it was a win. Let's see. How many regular season games did the Los Angeles Aces play at home? That wasn't as interesting. Let's see what kind of interesting one. How often did the Los Angeles Aces win at home? Let me go into one that was like a little bit more interesting. How often did the Los Angeles lose on the road? Okay, so this is the same one you guys saw before as far as like which opponent defeated the Las Vegas Aces the most overall. And we run this query. We saw the same thing. That was like a four-way tie between the Indiana Fever, Minnesota Lynx, New York Liberty, and the Seattle Storm. There's more than one way you could do this. You could do a rank for this as well, but I just did a count of the defeats. So basically, I just added in this extra flag of like is win equals to false, and then I just put this in descending order. So, and then this is the reverse of that. This is like the team that defeated them the fewest amount of times. So is at home. That was not as interesting. Which opponent defeated them the most on the road? Okay, so this is her. I think we saw this before. It's be like we did just like what her average minutes played was. So same thing we saw in the graph, which makes me feel good about the query. The average minutes that she played. So here we're just taking the average of the minutes, and again we're filtering for the player ID equals one, which is Asia, and then just making sure it's just a 2025 year. I looked at so this is how many minutes she played, the average number of minutes she played at home versus on the road. I was saying she played like around 2 more minutes when she was at home versus away. Let's look into her points. Oh, this was something that was interesting. And this is minutes, so let's look at the charts that we looked at was like turnovers, points. So let's look into her points. Um, let's look into her points. Okay, so here's the point analysis. So just like we saw before, this is the average points that she scored. So she scores around 23.7 points in the regular season 2025. And then how many points she scored at home. We just add this flag in here of is home equals to true. I guess I can put this here. Oh, let's see. Like this is similar to the chart that we saw before. So let's get this one. How often did the Aces win when Asia scored at least her average points? So let me run this right quick. Doo, doo, doo. Okay, so this is around 44%. Now I'm taking the overall number of games they played. Um, I guess that's what I did in this one. So basically, they won in total 28 games. So of those 28 games, they won 17 of those games when Asia scores at least her average number of points. And we saw that in the graph. But let's look at this SQL statement. So similar to the other statement, basically I created a subquery here, and we have now let me actually run this subquery for y'all so y'all can see this. So this is the subquery. So basically what I did was have for each row the number of points that she scored for that game. So this is like row by row, like um the points that she had each game. And then this one is actually her average overall points for the season. So remember she's averaging around 23.7 points. And then it's basically comparing like, okay, for each game, did she score at least her average point? So basically what we did was create a case statement and then just do like if the points is greater than or equal to the average points. And in order to get this to actually like do this at the granularity that we wanted to, we just use this window function over so that we can make sure that this number stays the same, and then it gets just this flag. So if she scored at least um the her average points, then this is a one, else it's a zero. So for example, the 23 points is slightly below the 23.71 points, so this got a zero. Versus this one, which she scored 31 points, and that one got a one. So, and then the other one we added, as always, was like the is win flag. So this was our subquery, and basically what we did was, so this is asking like how often did they win when she scored at least her average point. So that's two conditions. One, she scored her average point. So basically we summed the case where the average points flag is equal to one and the is win flag is equal to one. And then so that let me run this whole query now so you guys can see this. Okay, so basically games where Asia scored at least her average points and they won, that was 17 games. So of the 28 games that they won, 17 of those wins came when she scored at least her average number of points. But if I compared, but I compared that to the overall number of games they played, period. So 44% of the games that they played, basically that like 44%. That's what I came up with. We did this for each one of her like features. So points, rebounds, turnovers. Let's look at turnovers because that's the one where they won 18 games. Um, let's look at turnovers. All right, so if we look at our turnover analysis again, low turnover. Like I said, shout out to Asia. Uh, you guys can see same thing we saw in the visualization. She's only actually I'm kind of curious about my numbers because this one shows that she had around two turnovers versus on the chart we saw that it was like 1.98. So I'd be curious to see if there was any like mistakes on my end or anything like that. So this is one I'll go back and look at. But let's look at this is what I want to look at. So how often did the Aces win when Asia had no more than her average turnovers? So let's run this query and then I'll break this down a little bit for you guys. All right, so they win 18 of their games when Asia has no more than her average turnovers. All right. So basically, when she has like two or fewer turnovers, and this one is very similar to that other query. So we had that sub query, and this time our flag is turnovers, and we just did like if the turnovers was less than or equal to that average, then a one, otherwise a zero. What was the other one we looked at? We looked at turnovers. It was turnovers, points made, and rebounds. Let me look at her rebounds right quick. That's the last one I'll show you guys. All right, so let's look at her rebounds. So I believe on the one that I was looking at, she was rebounding around 9.9 or close to 10. Let's see how close this is. Yeah, this one's look like I'd be curious to see if anything's off just because I saw what the numbers were in Tableau and it is a little bit different. But either way, it's still around 10. So averaging around 10 rebounds. Um, she averaged just a little bit more rebounds at home than away. Okay, so how often did the Aces win when Asia grabbed at least her average rebounds? So around 39.5% of the time, or 15 out of their 38 games. Let me run this query so y'all can see what this looks like. So if I run this query again, so of their 38 total games, 15 of those games, Asia they won and Asia had at least her average number of rebounds. Um so yeah, and this is the same logic here, guys. Where we're just creating a flag to where if the rebounds are at least her average, then we give it a one, otherwise it's a zero, and then we just come up here and we sum this to get the total number of games when she both has at least her average rebounds and they won the game. So that's gonna do it for this one. I did, like I said, this is some deep analysis. If you guys want access to this repo, all you guys have to do is subscribe to our newsletter. This should be on our repo soon, and yeah, you guys can have some fun. In the future, like I said, I am gonna if the WNBA allows it, I am gonna scrape the data so that I can get the historical data for all the different years and stuff like that, and just see how the analysis changes. And then we can do things like see, like which teams defeated them the most each year, or like, what her performance was each year. So we can do like that rank over partition by function and have some fun with that. But yeah, that's what we got so far. In conclusion, Asia's a beast, obviously. Very impressed by her numbers. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial on the WNBA game analytics. Peace.